So, I'm kind of going through the front burner, looking through stuff to just kind of clean up, things that aren't really like time relevant, I guess you'd say, you know, ongoing conversations about ongoing topics, things of that nature. Just trying to kind of get some stuff out of there. And I ran into this video again, and it makes me laugh. It's about global warming, climate change, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's what the fuck is his name? I can't remember his damn name. It's Dan Pena talking about global warming, and it really made me kind of go, fuck you. Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. It really kind of just blew my mind when I heard it for the first time. And I was like, oh my god, what a stunning argument. So, I don't really have a whole hell of a lot to say through the course of this. Hopefully the copyright gods will just, I don't know, smile on me for this one and it won't be banned in all countries. I don't know. But this is kind of a mirror. I'm doing this little intro. I'm going to play this clip. I think it's about 4 or 5 minutes long. And then I'm going to talk at the end about the comments to the video and how hysterical I thought they were. I'll break down, you know, some of the broader strokes of the comments. So a lot of the comments were exactly the fucking same. Apparently people read the comments and then go, oh, that's a great point. I'm going to put that too. So I'll go over that. And then, of course, obviously it goes to the floor. And you guys get to leave your comments to this video and tell me what you think. So, without further ado, Dan Pena on global warming.
In 2011, my wife and I were in Antarctica, renewing our vows. For most of you that don't know, Antarctica's on a mountaintop, okay? And there is a $500 million facility, scientific facility there, and the scientists came to give us presentations about global warming. And they had cores of ice that they had drilled. They had drilled 4,000 or 5,000 cores, and they only brought 15 or 20. So they're going through the second or third core, and they said 275,000 years ago, this was the temperature, blah, 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 blah. And then 55,000 years ago, the world was 2 degrees warmer Celsius than it is today. This is 2011. And, oh, wait, stop. And he said, and I said, well, you mean the whole world? He says, yes. And the polls are only benchmarks. And I said, well, what about the things that the young woman alluded to? Okay. And he said, it's all cyclical. And although the gas may have exacerbated it, in the cosmos of time, it's not a fart in the wind. In the cosmos of time, of the 13.8 billion years that we've been on this miserable planet, it's not a fart in the wind. And as I told Joe Rogan on his show, and he said in his infinite wisdom, and Joe, if you hear this, I thank you for the opportunity of being on your show. He said, then in 25,000 years, it's most likely not going to be a problem. Now, my direct answer to your question, if that were really true, which you believe, and let's just for a moment say that it is true, that means that the best scenario vis-a-vis global warming is about 10 feet raise in water. That's the best scenario over the next 40, 50 years. That's the best scenario. The worst scenario is about 100 feet. But let's just take the 10 feet. If the water on the planet is going to rise up 10 feet, that means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. And I can go, most of Central America is gone. Okay. If that's the case, let's just take Florida, for example, which is one of the fastest growing beachfront condominiums on the planet. In the prospectus, when you invest, there should be, in the footnotes, if global warming is for real, they won't put it that way, global warming happens and water rises 10 feet, this investment you made is fuck all. Not one single investment prospectus written since 2000, this century, has alluded to global warming. Not one motherfucker. If it were really true, the banks wouldn't invest. The banks wouldn't finance. Not one motherfucking condominium. So the people that have the money, and I'm jealous of the Vice President, Gore, which Sally and I rode on a plane from South America with a few years ago. I am jealous he came up with a scam before I did. Because the financial institutions, the banks of this world know it's not going to happen. Otherwise, you couldn't get a goddamn loan in London. You know those 30, 40-year mortgages? The world will be over by then. Is Barclays Bank going to give you a motherfucking loan? With the greatest respect, ma'am, it's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century.
Now, that was kind of an angle of it that I'd never really thought of. And a lot of people in the comments to this video apparently hadn't thought of it either. Or thought about it, or thought about much of anything other than, oh, I think I've got a really great point. One of the things I saw over and over and over again is 100% of scientists believe that global warming is going to happen. First of all, no, that's very much wrong. Not 100%. That would mean all of them. And there are a lot of them that agree with Dan Pena and myself that it's fucking horseshit, right? The world is cyclical in its temperature. If you look back through the recorded history of time, you'll see that there are peaks and valleys. It gets warmer, it gets colder, and it kind of goes like that, right? If you draw it out in a line. It's just the way it goes. I remember when it used to be, it would get cold around mid-September. It would start getting cold, and the leaves would fall in October, and we'd have those wonderful seasons, and then it would start to snow around, mid-November. Now it doesn't snow until December. I think it was my dad, somebody in my family said, yeah, I remember when it was like this. It didn't start snowing until December too. And then it kind of went this way, and then it kind of went that way. And so, whatever. It is what it is. But it's not 100% of scientists. And even if it was 100% of scientists, that doesn't mean they're correct. Right? Way back when times, when people were discussing whether or not the earth was flat, not yesterday, I mean like way back when, before we figured out the earth is fucking round. Way back when, everybody thought the earth was flat. All the scientists said the earth is flat. There was one fucking guy that said, no, earth's round. One guy! And who's right? Obviously all the people who thought the earth is flat, because otherwise why the fuck would we be talking about that shit again? Whatever. So, just because there's a mass consensus about something, that doesn't mean that it's true. Right? Scientists thought for a very long time that all manner of different species of animals were extinct. And then I watched a video on YouTube the other day of the top 10 animals that aren't extinct that we thought were extinct. So, right? There's a lot of scientists that think that Bigfoot is real. Right? There's a lot of scientists that think that Bigfoot isn't real. But I've seen pictures of Bigfoot. They have them in commercials selling insurance or whatever the fuck it is that Bigfoot's selling. And jerky sticks. So, but that was one thing, and it irks me every time they do there's a consensus that it's true, because that means nothing. Just because there's a consensus of scientists, that means nothing. Science changes all the time. There was a consensus that Pluto was a planet for a very long time, and then Pluto got demoted to not a planet. And you know what? I heard on the radio today, they're talking about Pluto's a planet again. Science changes a lot, folks. To say that 100% of scientists, 90% of scientists, 1% of scientists believe anything, it means nothing. Unless it can be empirically proven and become law. Scientific fucking law. Whatever. Anyways, so as long as there's disagreements, you can't really say it's true because a lot of scientists believe it. No, science doesn't work that way. The other thing that a lot of people said, pretty much everybody that had a problem with the video, they all said this. 100% of them said this. They said this guy is the banker, not a scientist, or he's a money guy, not a scientist. Right? What the fuck does he know about science? He's talking about banking and shit. What do the bankers know about science? Well, look, here's my response to that. Bankers are not in the business of losing money. Scientists are very much in the business of losing money. Now let me explain. In science, you gotta do a lot of tests. And the greater portion of those tests are gonna fail because you're testing to see if shit's correct. And if shit doesn't come out correct, you gotta test in different ways again and again and again and again and again until you get, an actual... It's a lot of money wasted. Thomas Edison made 100 light bulbs that failed before he made one. He wasted a lot of money, right? But failure is a huge part of science. Through failure, we make scientific breakthroughs, right? So scientists are very much in the business of throwing away money because that is how you figure shit out. You do a whole lot of tests that are going to fail before you figure out the way to do the tests that they're going to succeed, before you come out with what's real, what the reality of it is. Bankers, very much not in the business of fucking losing money. They don't like losing money. Somebody in the comments brought up the housing bubble. That bankers don't care about, giving out shitty loans on houses because look what happened with the housing market. Obviously, this person doesn't understand what the fuck really happened with the housing market. The problem wasn't that the banks gave away a whole lot of loans to people that couldn't pay their loans. The problem was people couldn't pay their loans, right? So banks need to stay as liquid as possible. That's why they don't buy up real estate and just fucking hold on to it. If that worked for them, then they would own all of the land and we'd all be renting. They wouldn't ever sell houses or property. They'd own it and rent it to people. If that was where the lucrative market was, renting as opposed to selling, they'd own everything, right? And it would be easy for them to do. So when the housing market fucking blew up, what happened was all these people that were given these shit loans, they said, I can't fucking pay this. And they defaulted on their loans and declared bankruptcy. Now, what happens when you declare bankruptcy is certain debts you can't get rid of. But mortgages, now you lose your house. The bank comes in and takes it, right? They take the property that they don't want. And they don't get the money that they do want. So they only get the money that you've paid into it up to that point. And then they get the property back and it's worthless to them. They need to sell that shit to somebody else. But when you've got a lot of homeless people and a lot of people that can't pay their loans and a lot of loans that go unpaid, then bankruptcy just kind of erases those loans. Banks are losing a lot of fucking money. They're losing money because they're sitting on property. So property values plummet because the banks want to get rid of the property. So to say that the bankers, don't give a shit as to whether or not the water levels rise 10 feet and all of Florida is underwater, that's bullshit. Because I imagine they very much care about not owning the property. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell so much of it, right? They would keep it, again, and rent. But the funny thing about it is that let's say that was true. Let's say it didn't even matter to them. Let's say they didn't give a flying fuck if they owned a shit ton of property or sold it all away. It's all the same to them. We're going to work under the idea that it's all the same to the banks. Owning and selling, same thing, right? What is property worth below sea level? Now, when I say below sea level, I don't mean below sea level like New Orleans is below sea level. I mean below sea level as in underneath the sea. What is the worth of property underneath the sea? How much are plots of the Mariana Trench selling for? Fucking nothing. You want to know why? You can't do shit with it. So if the sea levels rise 10 feet and all of Florida is underwater, every single bit of that property is fucking worthless. It's worth as much as the property 100 miles out to sea. Nothing. Because it's underneath the water. You can't do shit with it. So why would the banks invest in making condos and real estate in Florida if someday, maybe, the sea levels are going to rise 10 feet, it's all going to be underwater, the people who have the loans are going to go, I'm not paying that off. That land is worthless to me. I'm going to default on my loan, declare bankruptcy, and get out from underneath this fucking debt. Then the banks have a whole lot of worthless fucking land. It made me laugh so hard that people who are neither bankers nor scientists are sitting there going, this guy's not a scientist, he's a banker. What do bankers know about science? You clearly don't know shit about either. You're a viewer. Sit there, boy, and view. Think a little bit about what you're talking about before you go out and fucking leave these dumbass comments. Made me laugh my ass off. Now, granted, I'm not a banker or a scientist. But all I need to do is write banker and scientist, you know, underneath Jesse's fucking law degree. And actually, Jesse is part of the USGS. So Jesse told me that everything I just said is absolutely true. That and the fact that I was alive during the housing crash. And I listened to what people were talking about. And that I understand how bankruptcy works. And I understand what it means when you default on your loan. But everybody's got to be right, no matter what. So, you know, whatever. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. It made me laugh intensely. I was like, never fucking thought of that. So, you know, did this blow your mind? Do you think this guy doesn't know anything because he's a scientist or a banker and not a scientist? Are you fully on board with the 100% of scientists think that this is true, so obviously it's true? Or are you more of a rational thinker than that? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments about global warming. It's a topic that always makes me giggle. I always love discussing it because it's just utter fucking insanity to me. To think that we as human beings, right, could do anything to this planet that would destroy it. Other than literally nuke it into oblivion and crack it fucking in half. To think that we could do anything just by simply living our lives, taking resources out of the earth and utilizing them on the earth, you're kind of getting into the area of we don't belong on this earth. And that is something I will be more than happy to discuss as well, because I don't think we belong on this planet. I've got huge theories about that, but that's when we get into my wacky shit. That's pot talk, and I can't smoke anymore. So, you know, whatever. Maybe I'll make a video about that someday. I think I said I was going to make a video about that. I might have made a video about that. I don't even fucking know anymore. They all tend to blur together. But, yeah, I want to hear what you guys have to say about anything discussed herein. Because it just, I don't know. It's a thing that always makes me laugh because it's a thing that we're still discussing. And it's a thing that just doesn't make any sense to me that we're discussing it. I don't think that what's going on with us is good. But I don't think that the raging forest fires in California are doing anything to help either. Right? I think somebody said that the forest fires have undone everything that we've done in the past like 10, 20 years to try and fix the environment. Those forest fires, burning as long as they have, put enough smoke and ash into the atmosphere that it's fucking undone everything. So what was the point? Big waste of money.